All
Uh,
right, put out a call
some,
for any questions.
we have one question. What's the pricing structure for the add-in? If you're asking if there's an additional cost for the Avalara integration on Work 365, we'll just have to make sure that you're on the right plan. Yeah, that was okay. Thanks for confirming that was your question. So,
Yep.
yeah, we just need to make sure you're on the right plan. There's no additional cost for this service.
There is on the
From
Avalara side.
from a Work 365 perspective, yes, I want to
Yes.
clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the way that we do pricing on the Avalara side, so you would need to have a contract, an agreement on the Avalara side. Work 365 is maintaining that connection. So that API connection that they built, they'll maintain that. But on the Avalara side, you would need to have an agreement in place. The way that it does work from a pricing perspective, it is based on the number of committed transactions that you have in Nexus states. So obviously, if you don't have Nexus or an obligation in a state, you're not registered there, then there's no tax calculation being done because you have no obligation. But if you are registered in that state and a tax calculation does need to be done, then in that case, that would count. We are looking at committed transactions. So those finalized transactions. Knowing your Nexus and understanding where you should be registered is super important. And we can definitely help with that if that's something that you need help with, as laws have changed in the last 5 years quite significantly regarding what triggers Nexus. So if you haven't looked at that in a while, I would definitely recommend looking at that to ensure. But yes, there would be a cost associated. And then each of those different pieces that I showed you, if you do want functionality around exempt sales and exemption certificates, returns filing, direct access to that tax research portion, all of those have their own fees associated with it. It's really just depending on, which pieces are going to be a good fit for you. We can design a package.
And we do have another question
For a lot of people.
around products. So the question is, are products still mapped to tax codes by the customer?
Yes, you will need to map the tax codes from Work 365 because only you know what you're selling. There's no not automated affix rule. We can definitely help, and obviously Avalara's team will be able to deduce what specific code you need to use. And I can tell you, working with Avalara for quite some time in a previous role, previous job, chances are you're going to be following all like the same code for a lot of the services you have. There are a ton of code services. A lot of those, I mean, obviously Avalara services many different entities, not just digital service goods or SaaS softwares or however you want to look at it. But yeah, you'll need to define that, but we can definitely help you from both ends to decide what that is.
So just to add in a little bit of clarity, Avalara has our own proprietary tax codes. And basically, we're maintaining all of the logic for that behind the scenes. So if anything is changing, you just map those tax codes out at the beginning when you're getting it set up so that each tax code lets us know what it is that you're selling. And then we're maintaining all the logic on the back end. So again, to my point, if something changes, a law changes, a tax rate changes, you do not need to be the expert. You do not even, maybe you might not even be aware of it. It's going to change on our side, which will then give you the correct tax back. So you map those tax codes at the beginning, and then you don't have to worry about it afterwards. I did see a question in there, is sales tax for Microsoft licensing really that complex? And yes, it can be. So a lot of people think that services and software are exempt. That is actually not the case in all jurisdictions. So software as a service, for example, is fully taxable in the state of Washington, exempt in several other states. It is taxable in several states, but as example, Washington is taxable, and in Texas, it's actually taxed at a reduced rate. So it can be definitely complex. And services, by the way, are included in those Nexus thresholds in most states. Most states do include services in your Nexus thresholds, triggering those obligations to register and collect. So it can be more complex, especially in the last few years.
All right, let's see. Other questions? So somebody feels like they're doing things wrong. does it open up a can of worms? You know, we hear about penalties and out of compliance things. Is there kind of, I guess if I'm kind of paraphrasing this question a little bit, do you get companies that kind of come to you thinking maybe they did something, be in trouble? Where do you start in a situation like that?
So really good question. Everything starts with Nexus. It all hinges on where you have an obligation. And I can't say it enough. So many things have changed in the last few years. So if you think you might be out of compliance or you just haven't looked at it, it's really worth having a conversation. And where we generally start is just giving you a little bit of feedback based on a quick snapshot of at least your last year of, whether or not there are red flags. We can help with doing a full Nexus study, or even, like I said, a high level one. So one thing to note, I'll throw it out there. If you're not sure, connect with me or connect with somebody at Work365 and they can get you to me. We are offering a free 1-year look back, a 1-year Nexus study risk assessment through our partnership with Work365. It's only available this month for the rest of this month. But if you're interested in taking advantage of it, you can take advantage of it, sign up for it. You do have a year to complete it, and it'll give you some really solid feedback on where you should be registered and what might have triggered in the last year. And that'll at least give you definite, information to shore up your Nexus and where you should be registered.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Do we want to go over how to contact folks and what's kind of the protocol for situational things, who to reach out to, so everybody's clear on that process?
So Work365 users, contact your dedicated CSM. Everybody will have one. Ask them how they can take advantage of the Avalara add-on. We're more than happy to get you in contact with Michelle and her team if you are not a user of Avalara. And then from the side of non-Work365 users, you can contact sales at work365apps.com. There's also some additional information on our website if you want to contact them directly. There's a couple of different ways you can do that, but email us directly. We'll respond very quickly.
Perfect. And last call for any other questions.
We did have one more question.
We do have another one. So, okay, let's open that up. If I can navigate, I don't see it. Oh. Do you guys see it? I'm not seeing it.
Does it matter what our accounting system is?
Oh.
So, I mean, it's a good question. As Michelle pointed out, Avalara obviously connects into a lot of different places, but the center of truth here is going to be Work365 for billing information. So a lot of times we recommend the billing piece to connect to your accounting system because, again, we're the system of truth when it comes to subscription management, who's going to be billed for what, etc. So it doesn't matter what accounting system you're using. If you plug into Avalara, at Work365, we'll talk to Avalara directly, and then Work365 will relate the tax information to your accounting system through whatever means of integration that we have for you.
And I can add on to that, as a best practice, anywhere you're really doing billing is where you should connect with Avalara. So if it's any kind of billing system that you might do, whether it's a POS, or quoting system, that's why we do also connect to CRMs as well as e-commerce sites where you might be doing at least the initial quote and collection of payment, and then you're actually finalizing the invoice in your ERP. All of those different pieces we can connect to, and that's what we would recommend so that you have one single source of truth for across all channels. And that also provides a lot of transparency for your clients as well, so that they're seeing that that tax rate on that total tax, not only on their quote, but also on their finalized invoice.